Hi, and welcome back to the Working Class History podcast. As you may know, we don't get any sort of funding from any wealthy benefactors, corporations, governments, or political parties. Our work is funded by you, our listeners and readers, on Patreon. In return, our supporters on Patreon get access to exclusive content and benefits, like ad-free episodes, bonus podcast episodes, and a couple of exclusive discussion podcast series, fireside chats, and radical reads. So here is a little preview of our latest episode for our patrons. You can join us, help support our work, and listen to the whole thing today at patreon.com/workingclasshistory. Link in the show notes.
Athens was facing the sharp end of the global financial crisis. Between 2010 and 2012, Greece became a test case for austerity. A whole country told it had to accept mass unemployment, wage cuts, and poverty so the banks and the Eurozone could be saved. And in the middle of that crisis of capitalism, between riot police and tear gas, were the people who lost everything and the animals who lived beside them or were abandoned by them.
The dogs in the story are poor and homeless. They sleep on concrete and live on scraps. But when the lines form, protesters on one side, police on the other, they keep making the same choice about where to stand. They bark at shields, chase tear gas canisters, circle back to check on pensioners and students. It's as if, on some instinctive level, they know who the threat is.
Most people outside Greece have never heard their names, but inside the country and across parts of the internet, two dogs, Kanelos and Loukanikos, became symbols of a whole generation's anger and hope. I'm Tyler Hill.
And I'm Audrey Kemp. This is Working Class History, Riot Dogs, Greece.
Before we get started, a reminder that our podcast is brought to you by you, our Patreon supporters. We hope you enjoy this bonus episode with more information about protest dogs as a way to say thank you for making our work possible. This is the second of a two-part series about riot dogs. If you haven't checked out the first episode about street dogs taking place in student protests in Chile in 2011 and 2019, check it out.
The 2008 financial crisis hit Greece hard. After the center-left PASOK party was elected in 2009, the new government disclosed that the budget deficit was more than double initial forecasts. This quickly led to credit rating agencies downgrading Greece's sovereign debt to junk status. Government borrowing costs also skyrocketed.
To avoid Greece defaulting on its debts, international financial institutions proposed a number of bailouts to be accompanied by right-wing economic reforms.
Each new loan from the so-called Troika, comprising the European Commission, the European Central Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, came with deeper cuts. Wages and pensions were hit, and public services were squeezed to keep debt repayments flowing. Meanwhile, unemployment soared, especially for young people, and families slid from precarious to desperate.
The anti-austerity protests were not just about one law or one government. They were a revolt against a whole economic order that asked ordinary people, and never the banks or the political class, to absorb the shock.
Greece wasn't only hit by the global financial crisis. It was already carrying deep structural debt tied to the Eurozone without control over its own currency. When the crisis hit, austerity was not negotiated in Athens.
It was imposed from Brussels, Frankfurt, and Washington, and Syntagma Square, right outside Parliament, became the primary place where people confronted that loss of control again and again.
Back in 2001, before the crisis, Greece had entered the Eurozone, but only after using controversial accounting methods and complex currency swaps to hide the true scale of its debt from the European Union.
When the economy collapsed, that structural deception was exposed, and Greece could no longer afford to borrow money. The bailouts that followed were designed less to help Greeks and more to protect major European banks that held Greek debt, essentially stabilizing the euro at the cost of the Greek people.
It's worth mentioning that, despite stereotypes about lazy or greedy Greeks, at this time workers in Greece already worked the longest hours of any European nation in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD.
Before we go further, one important thing. The voices you're about to hear come from different moments in the crisis.
Photographer Luisa Guglielmaki was on the streets during the height of the protests when Loukanikos was still charging riot police around 2008 to 2012.
In 2015, filmmaker Mary Zornazi came to Athens to make Dogs of Democracy, a film documenting the street dogs of the city and the people who cared for them in the shadow of the protests.
That brings us to the end of this episode preview. Hope you enjoyed it. To listen to the full thing and help support our work researching and promoting people's history, join us today on Patreon at patreon.com/workingclasshistory. That's patreon.com/workingclasshistory. Link in the show notes. Catch you next time.